Hello, dear participants. This is the third episode in our virtual peering series for Central Asia. The series is supported by Facebook, FlexOptics, Team Kimru, and DE-CIX. I am the moderator of the series, and most of you know me already. My name is Vahan. I'm External Relations Officer with RIPE and Central Asia. What is the objective of this meeting? During our earlier events, we were discussing XPs in general. We were talking about what is an IXP, why does it exist. Today, we will focus on the factors, enablers of a successful IXP, such as equipment, services, and access to fiber routes, which is relevant to many of the IXPs in the region. On our agenda today, we have the IXP Knowledge Cafe 2. This presentation will be delivered by Max Stucchi, Regional Technical Advisor for Europe, the Internet Society. And we assembled a panel to hold a discussion. The panelists are Ucha Seturi from Georgia, Flavio Luciani from NaMex, and Toneyan from Armix. Of course, you can ask your questions, and we will have some kind of closing. I have already mentioned that we have several sponsors of this event, FlexOptics. There is also Facebook, and our other event sponsors. The first two sponsors were the sponsors of the series, but the event sponsors are Team Simru and DE-CIX. And let me introduce this very modest guy who has cast his glance downwards. Max Stucchi worked with us for a long time at RIPE NCC. Now he is the Regional Technical Advisor for Europe of the Internet Society. And the Internet Society is the initiator of this event. And our panelists, our speakers are, let me introduce Ucha. How do you describe Ucha? He is such a character and such an expert at the same time. And when we say internet governance in Georgia, we mean Ucha. Ucha, I believe, is an active engine of community networks in Georgia. He's the co-founder and founder and everything else of Georgian IGF and Georgian IXP. So Ucha is the Georgian internet. Flavio Luciani represents NaMex. Flavio will introduce himself and his foundation. Albert is the pioneer of the internet in Armenia. He is the founder of one of the very first companies that introduced the internet in Armenia, and he is the president of the Armenian ISOC, and he is the founder and the CEO of Armenian Internet Exchange. That's been in operation since 2010. I have already mentioned that we have several sponsors. Let us once again say thank you to all of them for supporting this event, for supporting the whole series. Our main goal is to assist Central Asia in becoming one of the most successful regions in terms of efficient peering and advanced IXPs. And now I am very happy to give the floor to Max Stucchi. He will run through his presentation. Now, let me add just one more thing. Since in the list of participants, we have a lot of people who have long and active experience with peering and IXPs, I would like this session to be more interactive than our previous meetings. Can we please try to have a discussion around the topic of what can be done to make even more progress with IXPs and peering, not just in Central Asia and the Caucasus, but also everywhere in the world?
Thank you, Vahan. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. The intent of the virtual peering series has been to meet people who are interested in enhancing peering in the region, in Central Asia, so that as organizations, the Internet Society, the RIPE-NCC, and also EuroIX, who is also participating in organizing these events, can have a better understanding of the environment. And as Internet Society, especially, we would love to see peering increase in the region, and we would love to see Internet exchange points start more in the region. The goal of this session is to show that setting up an Internet exchange point is relatively simple, but there are a series of services, a series of additions that people sometimes overlook, but which can make a big difference in having an IXP being successful or not. But before we start, I would like to take 1 minute to remember Susan Forney, who was also a presenter in the virtual peering series on the first event. And I would like to just express how thankful we are for what she did. She recently lost her, but she will always be remembered for how kind and how witty and how intelligent she was, and how always she wanted to help everyone in the world to understand more about interconnection, peering, and everything that's related to networking. So thank you, Susan. And then let's get into the presentation. I wanted to start with this, you have a switch. You have bought the best switch you could find, but you want to call it an IXP, and there's still a lot of work to do. In the virtual peering series number 2, we covered part of this, the basics. How do you get people connected? What are the effects of connecting to an internet exchange? What does it mean in terms of latency? What do you get in terms of return? But now, what else do you need? Once you have a switch, you have the optics, you have connected the first 2 or 3 participants, let's say even 5 or 10, but how do you bring your internet exchange to the next level? What are the tiebreakers in this case? First of all, you need resources. What are these resources? We're talking about IP addresses, we're talking about autonomous systems, because you need to have specific IP addresses for specific reasons. You have to become an LIR to do this. It's a very simple process with RIPE-NCC. You can contact Vahan, you can contact Elena as well. You can ask me, teach how to do all these. The costs are 1,000 euros for the setup and 1,400 euros per year, although I put a star there because while the price is set for every year, RIPE-NCC so far has had additional funds available. So every year for the last 4 or 5 years, the maintenance fee, the membership fee has always been in reality lower than that. So around 1,000 euros. And the process requires about 2 weeks to complete. You become a member, you become a local internet registry, and then you can ask your addresses. So there are 2 parts that you need to consider. And let's start looking at the infrastructure as divided into 2 parts. There is one that is the public services, the management interfaces, and the rest. And it's a part that people will see when they try to access your website, when they try to go into the management interfaces. And for that, you need what's called a PA, provider aggregatable addresses. I don't think there is a good translation in Russian for that. There isn't even a good translation in Italian for that definition. And then you need specific IPs for the internet exchange part, for what is called the peering LAN. And those addresses have to be somehow, let me say, special, because they need to be reserved specifically for that reason, but they're not supposed to be announced on the internet. This is why you need 2 separate parts. You need one that's the PA, that's a network that you announce on the internet, and then there are the peering LAN addresses that are supposed to just stay on the peering LAN. No one is supposed to be seeing them on the internet, and they're just used for the interconnection of the users. The same goes for the autonomous system numbers. You need 2 in this case as well. One for the public services, management, and other, and an autonomous system number for the route servers. So for the peering LAN, and again, this is also an autonomous system that should not be seen on the internet, and it's just reserved for this specific use. You could do with just one, but it's better if you have to. I see Arnold has a hand up. I'll get to you in a moment, Arnold. Give me 1 second. One additional thing you need is transit. People sometimes overlook this, and IXP still needs transit for your website, again, for management. And don't forget that some members might need that, but not really as a paid service, but they might need it to fill up their caches. CDNs might need to ask you for this service to be able to replenish their caches or to get data to some of their servers there. So Arnold.
Yeah, thank you very much, Max, so far. So I would even recommend to go for a 3 ASN. You definitely need one for the services LAN. You need definitely one for your peering LAN. And sometimes it's even recommended to have a third one if you have a root collector, because if you look into the definition what an ASN is, it has to have an own policy.
Thank you. Yeah, I said you could make it work with just one, but 2, and then, as you said, 3. I didn't consider the case of the route collector, but that's a good point, and thank you, Arnold. So the way we have built this presentation is that now we are going into a little bit of a discussion with our panelists, but again, as you've seen with Arnold, everyone is welcome to join the discussion. So let me ask a quick question to, say, for example, Flavio. How many ASNs does NaMex have? Because now I'll ask the same question to Armix, and then ask you how you divide that and how do you use them.
Hi, Max, and hello, everyone. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me today. Just a brief introduction about myself, because I don't know if before someone did it, but mainly my name is Flavio Luciani, and I am mainly the Chief Technology Officer of NaMex. NaMex is one of the Italian's internet exchange point, and NaMex is the Rome internet exchange point. So we are in Rome. Yes, I can answer your question. In NaMex today, we count about 200 autonomous systems interconnected to our interconnection facility. I would like to say, if I can, Max, I would like to add some comment about what you said before. First of all, I usually start from the definition of internet exchange point. It looks like something academic, but I think it is really important to understand what an internet exchange point is and does. And this is my humble point of view. An exchange point is something really useful in the internet ecosystem. And I think that we are not only peering interconnection systems, but in general, we are physical infrastructure where interconnections happen. The whole interconnections happen, and not only the peering interconnection. So peering is the main service that usually we provide to our customers, and there is also an historical, let me say, reason, because today we always say, okay, exchange points are peering ecosystems, but this is the main scope, to facilitate the exchange of reachability information among members. But we are going through something new, and many exchange points around the world are showing that we are more than a single point where peering interconnections happen. This definition from my side, it is very important, because by thinking on what you are, you can easily understand what you want to go through. I would like to comment what you said, and what you say, it is in reference on the peering service. So you need an autonomous system to provide services to your members. You have to have another autonomous system for the route server infrastructure, because route servers are another key element of an internet exchange point. You can provide this service to facilitate the establishment of the peering interconnection among your membership. And everything is right, but it is a reference for the peering service and not for other services that an exchange provide to the members. So this is my comment. I don't know if someone else has some comments on that.
Maybe Albert, would you like to?
We are using two AS numbers, as you said, Max. One for announcing our network to internet, transit internet, and one for road collectors. But we will discuss recommendation, and maybe we will use another AS number. We will see. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Just to add something here, together with Ucha at ISOC, we're helping actually Ucha set up an internet exchange point in Georgia. So I'm not asking the same question to Ucha because the IXP is still getting to start. So we're designing it together with them to have two ASNs. Maybe we'll think about a third one. But yeah, so I didn't ask that question because it's still yet to come in his case. Ucha, you'll have your chance, maybe the next questions to chip in the next part. I don't see any other comments. So maybe we can move on to the next part, and it's the fundamental services. So I divided the presentation into what can be considered a fundamental service and what could be considered then a value-added service where we add it on top of what we already have. There is a series of services that are considered fundamental, that are the basics of an IXP. You could run without these, but the chances of becoming successful are much, much less, and they're not hard to implement. So first of all, you want to have an interface where your members can go and check who is also connecting at the IXP, where is my port? How are my traffic graphs? And then have a customer portal for that. But also, in this case, I highlighted IXP Manager, which is one of the choices you can make for such a software. But then IXP Manager also helps your participants in, for example, being able to send peering requests to other participants in an automated fashion. And then the important part of IXP Manager for a new established IXP nowadays would be switch port configuration, and then at the same time providing the source of truth for other parts of the IXP configuration. So you do everything in IXP Manager, and then with IXP Manager as the center, you can add other components that catch all the configuration data, all the important information from IXP Manager from there. We'll see in a moment there are route servers. You can generate the route server configuration starting from what IXP Manager says is there. You could do the same with your website to show the list of participants at the IXP. You could do plenty of other automation based on the information you find in IXP Manager. And then it's a nice interface to give to your customers, to your members, so that they can do a lot of self-service actions and make it easier for them to be on the peering plan, get all the information they need directly from one source. Then we have route servers. Route servers is a service for members to peer easily. Why easily? Because basically it's a way to reduce the amount of configuration needed from different members to be able to make the most out of an internet exchange point. If I peer with the route servers, then I get immediately all the routes. I learn all the routes from all the other members who at the same time peer with the route servers. So in one go, I configure one, normally two peering sessions, and I get the routes for all the other members who do the same, without having to establish a single direct BGP session with all the other participants. So I get a lot out of just one BGP session. For example, at Links, you get by default, just with one session with the route servers, you get about 170,000 routes. And that already collects a lot of traffic that you just put into the internet exchange. And then route servers are a point where the IXP could also do filtering. It's a filtering point. It could be based on the routing registry. It could be based on RPKI. And for an IXP starting right now, I would base everything off of RPKI, mostly with a fallback to routing registry. But also they represent an opportunity to look into how routing is in a country or an area, because you normally collect all the local exchange, local networks, all the routes. You have a way to look into how they're routing, and it gives you a way to provide more data, understand more about how the network environment is in the area. But the two important parts of the route servers are basically setting up just a couple of BGP sessions and receiving all the routes for all the other participants who also peer with the route servers, and then have them as the first line of defense, filtering based on strict rules that the IXPs can enforce. Then on top of this, this is not a service that is offered by the IXPs, but PeeringDB is also another central point of information where the single IXP should start publishing all of the information about their participants and the peering LANs. Because then all the large networks, all the CDNs, but also medium and small networks can use PeeringDB as a way to understand, okay, where should I peer and in which facilities can I do that when I want to join a certain number of internet exchange points? And what value is that going to add to my routing? Because I want to check which other networks are also peering at that internet exchange. So PeeringDB is a window into who your members are, in which facilities they are, so that prospective new members can start checking and can make provisions on, okay, if I join a certain internet exchange, who am I going to find? And in some cases also, how much traffic am I going to exchange there based on what I already have in my network right now? So PeeringDB is really an important part, an important set of information to fill in and to keep updated continuously. And then you should be pushing your members to also keep PeeringDB updated as much as possible. So any comments on this section? I see maybe Flavio, would you like to add something about all this?
Yeah, you have mentioned three important tools. I can share with you my experience, for instance, by starting from the first one, IXP Manager. I think that you say everything, and I can say it is a good tool, not for provide useful information to your membership, but also it is a good tool for your internal troubleshooting, because you can have our view on what is happening in terms of traffic, support errors, and it is a really good tool to make troubleshooting internally. And also, you say that if you think that an exchange point can have a huge number of network operators interconnected, it is a really good way to automate the daemons configuration, because you have to take care on not only the basic configuration of BERD or OpenBGPD, but you have also to generate filters. You have to put and mix all together. And route servers are a key element in routing security, because you can implement on that the check validation chain in terms of RPKI, internet routing registry filtering, and IXP Manager is very useful to mix everything together to have a correct configuration, let me say. Also, sometimes it is a good tool to provide, for instance, peer-to-peer traffic statistics to your members. Because if you think about the really small or medium-sized internet service providers, network operators, they don't have many tools to check, for instance, where they are doing huge traffic. For instance, if you think about it, some events can occur, and you can provide them, okay, this is your aggregate in terms of traffic that you are generate on the internet exchange point. And then you can see also the P2P statistics. So you can find where your traffic is flowing in a sort of a way. What about route servers? Also here you say everything. And also here I say something. If I think about the peering service, route servers represent a great commodity for your membership. Of course, the main goal is to facilitate the establishment of the peering sessions, because with one peering session you can get many routes for all the participants on the route server, but also in terms of routing security. And I think this is another main scope of an internet exchange point, to provide a service and to try to mitigate as best as we can routing threats. And route server are very useful tools to do that. And then what about PeeringDB? PeeringDB is really famous and it is really used in the interconnection industry. And I really recommend to exchange points to try to maintain up-to-date information on that, especially when you are onboarding a new network operators in your exchange point. You have to try to sensitize them to maintain PeeringDB up-to-date. This is what we usually do. We usually say, okay, you have to use it, but you have to not only use it, you have to maintain the information up-to-date. And yeah.
Thank you, Flavio. Arnold has a hand up again.
Just 3 sentences to add or to reiterate is, first of all, I also can only highly recommend to use IXP Manager. This is really an excellent software. It's up to date and it's developed a lot of features, and especially for small to middle-sized IXPs, it's definitely the software to use. For route servers, I would say route server is a must. An internet exchange without a route server is like a party without drinks. So it's useless. So a route server really helps new members to get up to speed within seconds. So I've seen in my career members connecting to the internet, joining the route service, and their port was almost full within a couple of minutes. Last but not least, to PeeringDB also is a must. So you would like to be seen. You would like to make your known to potential networks. So therefore, if you have an IXP, also register at PeeringDB and also keep your entry up to date. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Arnold. And let me add a bit to what he has said. Is I run a small ASM that's under my name. You can look it up. But the moment I joined an IXP and I updated PeeringDB, I think it took 10 minutes after that to get the first emails. Would you like to peer with us? From other participants who are there. So there's a lot of automation going on PeeringDB, and this will help you as an IXP in providing a good service also to your members if you keep it all updated. I see Albert has a hand up. So Albert.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say that our exchange point is a very small one. There are only 11 members connected to our network, but from the other side, all internet providers in Armenia are connected directly or via other already connected providers. We are also using BIRD as a road collector. We have 2 collectors, 2 road servers, and we are doing 4 BGP sessions for IPv4 and IPv6. And as for IXP Manager, our community is very small and everybody knows each other very well. We have no any more requests for peering, so everything is stable, and this is the situation in our mix. We have several statistics sites we are collecting S-flows, and users can do some filters to see their traffic, and if there is a need for acting on traffic, we are providing communities, and some of our participants are using communities to manage the traffic coming from either from other participants or from cache servers that we have in our mix. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. I see Ucha had a hand up, but now it's down. Do you still want to say something?
Thanks for inviting me and the opportunity to share more information, because we are just beginners and we are just trying to start work. But I want to say that these all sources you and Kevin to use are very useful and very important for us. And about additional services, maybe local CDNs and also IP transit services will be very interesting, because for Georgian IX and for our members, we have right now 17 founder members of IX, connect to the local CDN, international CDNs, and connect also to the IP transit is very important and very crucial for our boss POPs. That's it. Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Ucha. Let me ask briefly, Albert, do you use IXP Manager or do you use a different system, or is it something you have built yourself at Arnold?
We are not using IXP Manager, but we are going to use for configuration of root servers and switches. We have no need in IXP Manager because everything is already configured, and there are need of only small changes, and we are doing everything in manual way. But we are going to implement IXP Manager, and it's in our plans in the near future. Thank you.
Sounds good. Please.
Yeah, hello, this is Michalis. Thank you for organizing this forum. I just wanted to point out, Max, that we should mention IXPDB as well as a source of truth. It contains a lot of authoritative data regarding IXPs, and it's a pity that it hasn't been mentioned before. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sorry about that. Is that I didn't want to add too much at this stage, but that's also a good point that IXPDB should have been mentioned. Arnold.
And just one note. There was the word truth mentioned several times. I would really recommend to change the word truth to information. Thank you.
I mean, when I was mentioning the source of truth to source of information. Okay, I took note of that. But let me ask Flavio, do you use IXP Manager or do you have a different tool, something you...
No, we use IXP Manager. Yeah, and we are also moving to the last release in this period because there are many improvements on that, and I think
Let me ask Michalis. You just spoke, but do you use XP Manager?
Yes.
Michalis is from.
I am from GRX, the Greek Internet Exchange. Sorry for not disclosing it earlier. Hi again. Yeah, we are using IXP Manager for many years now. We are sponsoring it as well, and we are very happy. Basically, we are using IXP Manager as a source of truth for everything related to the exchange, and we build all our automation based on that source of truth. We automate everything in the exchange. That includes both the route server configuration and the switches configuration.
Thank you. I see there is Luca, is a fellow Italian on the call from Topics. Maybe Luca can tell us what they use at Topics, which is the Internet Exchange of Torino in northern Italy.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Max, for involving me. And you already introduced who I am and where I'm from, so I don't spend any more words on that. So going to your question, what we are using, we are implementing route servers, and we're using Bird, for example. So with two different instances in two different virtual machines, also located in our own cloud. For the management, I would say, unfortunately, we are not using IXP Manager because it was a choice of the past. And so we are using a tool that we have developed internally. But now, for example, as already mentioned by the other speakers, there are new features related to the automation that it would be very useful for the implementing the automation with our new coming platform. So it's a choice we will put under discussion again. And last but not least, you mentioned the fact that you can provide transit to other players. We are doing that as we are a regional, so local IXP. We are not providing our own transit, but we make it possible with marketplaces. Some members can sell services, including IP transits, to others. So that is basically implementing private VLANs to the seller member and to the buyer member. And we do not go into the contract of the IP transit. So we are only the interconnection platform. So it's also a way to have a larger use of the interconnection and the switching fabric.
Perfect. Thank you, Luca. Now, I've done a tour of the IXPs present on the call, and I think I've missed Angela until now from Interlan. Would you like to tell us if you use IXP Manager or if you have something else, Angela?
Yes, I'm right here. Hello, everybody. Yes, we are using IXP Manager as well, and we consider it's very useful. What I would like to ask everybody, how do you promote your network operators to register in PeeringDB?
That's a very good question. I think, Flavio.
Yeah, I have my personal answer. It is not absolute, but it is my personal point of view. During the onboarding, as I said before, I tried to check different kind of things, such as if the network operator is onboarding, they have RPKI ROAS, if they have all the Route 6 objects and AES set inside the Internet Routing Registry. And also we check if they have an entry inside PeeringDB. And if so, we only ask to reference NaMex as the peering point that they are joining. And if not, we usually support them to add a new profile on PeeringDB and setting everything correctly. This is what we do usually. Sometimes, one time per year, we usually do a whole check on everything in terms of alphabetical order. We check all the autonomous systems interconnected if they have everything well updated on PeeringDB, not only PeeringDB, but also PeeringDB.
Thank you, Flavio. Angela, any other questions? Maybe you want to?
No, that's fine.
No? Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the contribution. I cannot stress this enough as to keep all the information updated. My name was still put as the peering coordinator for a network even 10 years after I left it. And so I had to send numerous emails to that network to say, can you correct that so that I don't get any more calls to ask me about peering with you? Maybe one last quick question is, because we have an example of a very large IXP. Arnold, what do you use IXP Manager at DE-CIX?
So thank you for the question, Max. So actually, when we started DE-CIX, the IXP Manager was not around. And we actually, I guess we reroute the complete provisioning software also a couple of years ago when IXP Manager was not around. So we are not using IXP Manager, but what we do is where we help new IXPs coming up, like, for example, Angola IXP, we also use IXP Manager there. And also, I guess the bigger IXPs, Links, DE-CIX, NetNode, and so on, they have an internal setup, internal technical setup with EVPN and so on, which IXP Manager currently is not able to support. That's the reason for them not to use it, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Arnold. That's exactly why I asked you this specific question, because there are historical reasons. IXP Manager is relatively new compared to IXPs. So if there is an IXP that started before IXP Manager was around, they had no other choice other than going for something either built by themselves or something different, just something pulled together with some automation built in. Or they are in the process now of moving to IXP Manager, although I don't know of any doing this for the reasons that you just mentioned. Some features are not yet supported by IXP Manager.
And just to add, most of the large IXPs, they also offer additional services. And you do not want to have two pieces of software to manage your provisioning system. And IXP Manager probably also is not able to provision these services. So that's the other reason would make it hard even for mid-sized to larger IXPs to move to IXP Manager.
Yeah, and I understand. But to make it clear, for a new IXP nowadays, I personally would recommend, and I guess Arnold, you too, I would recommend
Definitely.
IXP Manager.
Definitely.
Yes, because that really helps in setting that up. Then, if you want to grow and you have additional parts, you can still figure it out later. But at least at the beginning, IXP Manager would be the way to go. Okay, I think we can move on to the next part of the presentation, and then, which is about fostering the community, because you have built it. And I don't know if there's a movie associated to a book where Kevin Costner hears a voice and says, if you build it, they will come. It's not entirely true for IXPs. You can build it, but then there might be some challenges for operators to join. There might be challenges for CDNs to join. So you have to create a community around the switches and the peering platform. And as an IXP operator, that's your role. That's the important part you have here. It is important to understand how you can position yourself there. You can be a creator of community. The first part is convincing the CDNs to join. There is a long list of challenges here. There is no one rule fits all. I was having a discussion with Flavio a couple of weeks ago, and he came up with also all these concepts, like you have to understand which CDNs are the most important for your country or region, because in Central Asia, probably users are more interested in accessing mail.ru or are more interested in accessing Yandex than users in Western Europe are. So in Western Europe, you would have more Google, you would have probably more interest in Facebook. In Central Asia, you have different content that people would like to access. So first of all, you have to figure out what are the CDNs I want to talk the most with. There's an example that maybe Flavio or Luca can explain in a moment in more depth. In Italy, nowadays, most of the football matches are broadcast over the internet exclusively. So as a network operator, you want to figure out which CDNs are distributing this content to be able to provide the best service to your users by connecting to these CDNs as much as possible. And then the question is, once you figure out who these content networks are, how could they reach the IXP? Where are all the fibers? Do you have diversity? Or what are the carriers or operators they can leverage to join to reach the IXP? And what is the capacity that's available? Then CDNs might decide to put a cache at the IXPs and use your transit to fill it with content. There are cases, and maybe in a moment, Flavio can mention that. But there are all these parts you have to take into consideration, because it's not just enough to set up the IXP and the CDNs will come. You have to convince them, you have to show them there's value, and you have to show them that there's a way to do it, that there is the infrastructure to join the exchange. And then on top of this, regular meeting with the members, with the participants. They are going to help improve the peering landscape, because when you have people who create a community, there's more cohesion. There are more contributions that happen in the peering landscape, which means also very simple things. If the members have real ways of communicating, I've seen it for example, in the ZANOG, the South African Network Operators Group, people are so close to each other, they know each other, that sometimes they just send a call out, okay, I need this, I'm in this data center and I need an optics that's slightly different from what we normally use. Does anyone have any optics of this type lying around? And then everyone jumps to help. Many people jump over to help, figure out what can be done. And this can really help, a community can really help the whole peering landscape. I've jumped from just a regular meeting to a full community thing, but by giving a chance to people to meet, then that's what you get long term. You get a more connected community. And one thing to keep in mind is cater to both the technical side of the operation, so people who configure the routers and the organizational side. So the marketing departments or the CEOs, cater for both of them in your meetings. Make sure everyone feels welcome, or maybe create separate meetings that are to do this. And then to increase the ability for networks to peer, some IXPs have technical meetings every 6 months, a big meeting with peering one-on-ones once a year, which means that you have a room now with all the restrictions we have. This might be challenging, but imagine a big room with tables where networks who would like to peer with each other can sit and talk and shake their hands on getting a new interconnection or set up just a BGP session, new agreements, port upgrades. Think about all of this in one go. There are platforms where you can help your participants set this up. And so this is an important aspect of creating an internet exchange and everything that comes around it. And then mailing lists are smaller in importance in a certain way, but still important. Get to know who is the new member on the block, the new member on the peering run. Get to know about port upgrades. Get to know about the maintenances. But also have a discussion list where you can help, where people can talk to each other to discuss troubleshooting, to discuss what's happening to their neighbors, and so on. So this also helps strengthen the community and its relationships. And then we have people on the call. We have Rebecca from EuroIX and we have Bijal. I'll give them maybe a chance to add to what I'm saying now. Not only look at the community of your internet exchange, but look also at the community of internet exchanges. And in this case, there is EuroIX. Having a membership where it is not mandatory will help you in getting to talk to other IXP operators, getting to meet with them, getting to have access to resources that these IXPs have. EuroIX gathers 70 IXPs and runs mailing lists, meetings, both virtual and physical, and it's a platform to meet other IXP operators, learn and discuss about all the issues we all see. I pointed to a few things. Flavio, I mentioned a discussion we've had. I'll ask you first if there's anything you would like to add here, and then we'll also talk to Ucha, who is facing similar issues. And then I have a special question for Albert after that.
Yes, it is a really big topic, the growing of an internet exchange point. I think the first question you have to answer if you want to build an internet exchange point in area is which is the real value that you are bringing on the region. And I think that usually the answer could be yes, there is a value because an exchange point is always more or less a value for a region, a country. And so next questions may be something like, which is the real value that you are bringing to the local network operators? And which is the real value that you are trying to bring to content delivery networks, content providers, or other kind of actors that operate in the internet? And you have to work side by side by thinking that you have to put an eye the local community and you have to put an eye to the content that you want to bring to your exchange point. And then, first of all, as you said, Max, you have to know as best as you can the ecosystem in your country. You have to really understand the fibers path, for instance, that enter and leave your country. You have to know which operators have connectivity in your country. And also you have to understand which are the needs of your local community, because you have to put your effort at the beginning by trying to involve content delivery networks or contents in general that they are a very benefit for the local community. Because at the beginning you have many things to do. Also, you have to understand how to build your technical infrastructure as well, no? and local network operators. I can share with you just briefly our experience that we have in Albania. We are building the first neutral internet exchange point there. It's called ANIX. In this moment, We are trying to convince content providers to come. We are trying to create a huge density of network operators because it is important if you want to involve the content delivery network. So it is not easy to understand how you have to do first, but probably, in my opinion, if I can suggest something, the first step is to create a critical mass of local network operators by sensitizing them about which is the real benefit to be everyone at the same point. And this is very powerful because you are, 20 network operators in Albania in the same data center, and it is easier, not easy in general, but easier to try to involve the Cdns to come. And it is powerful. So I think this is the first step. Create a local community, to have more power, to establish, of course, a discussion with content delivery networks. Then you have to work on the ecosystem. You have to also give back to content delivery networks something, which is the benefit for a CDN to come in your exchange point. So you have to bring them also the value that you are bringing. And sometimes the value is, and always, a critical mass of local internet service providers. This is one of the first goal and also the first value that you can bring on the table when you are discussing with a CDN to come or not. Yeah,
I see Vahan has a hand up. I'll go to Vahan first, and then we go back to Ucha and Albert. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's true that you should create a critical mass, but it's something like CDN provider says, well, how many participants do you have? And participant says, if you don't have a CDN, why should I get connected? So in that case, the solution might be just to provide the commitment letters to the CDN provider that these are the participants that are committed to connect to me if I have a CDN here. That might work in some cases.
Yeah, that's because, thanks. That's because I said before, you have to try to, let me say, sensitize them just to say, if we are all together, we can do the different if we want to involve content delivery network. Sometimes you can reach the goal. Sometimes it's not easy to share this knowledge, especially for the smaller one. This is my personal experience then, because in Albania, in Annex, now we have Facebook, but we work on that for 3 years. Before having Facebook in our facility. And the first step was involving the local network operators. And the first stuff we had is to organize meetings there, try to share our knowledge in terms of, okay, we can do the difference if we are all together. At the beginning, it's not easy, but you can do that if you want.
But the last, let's say, developments leading to that even small providers have enough traffic to put the CDN at their premises. And in that case, it's quite important to understand why they should come to the IXP if they can also put the CDN in their premises. So also for content delivery networks, it is important to show that in any case, it will be a benefit for them to come to IXP. If they, for example, fill the caches from IXP cache, or if they can position that CDN as a regional hub, etc. I don't have the answer to that yet because CDN providers don't make it yet, but the question is open yet. Yeah.
Thank you, Vahan. Thank you, Flavio. Ucha, you're starting, but we've had a lot of conversations about how to, maybe in the long term, how to attract this CDN. So what's your experience?
Thanks, Max. Good question, because we have to split for Georgia, because we have strange situation here. Yet, because actually local SMPs or big providers, few of them, are using international CDNs as a tool, as a power to make money for transit, to access to them. But we have also local content, which is also a very important part. And I mean the Georgian content and content collocated here in Tbilisi. So what can I say? As you know, and with Kevin and with other guys, step by step, we are moving forward. And our goal is to increase, at least start increase the traffic amount exchanged in Georgian IX. And after that, we will kindly ask Facebook and other big CDNs to help us, because right now they're using this information as a, a tool against the competition, honestly. That's the case for Georgia. But we have right now biggest local CDN, Cloud9, as it starts to create temptation for micro and the small operators to connect and to be with us. And we are hopefully to have, as I said, big CDNs, Akamai, Facebook, because Vahan also mentioned about the using of the Facebook, for example. Georgian population is 3.7 million, but we have more than 4 million Facebook users, so it's very popular here in Georgia. Yeah, it's strange because small businesses are also using Facebook for e-commerce business. That's a point for Georgia. And about the IGF, NOC, I'm chair of the small and medium telcos, telecom operators, and internet service providers. That's our network. And we are using this opportunity to go forward, to unite and to move forward, because about 75, maybe a little bit more % of households are under the two main providers, and 150 providers are keeping the last 22 or 23% of households. So that's also a case for us. But as they are moving forward, they are understanding important AS numbers, IP addresses, BGP connection. We have right now sent 5 requests on AS numbers and RIPE membership, and also for AS numbers and for addresses. So we are moving forward, and hopefully we have to have different situation in few months. Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Ucha. Now I have a question for Albert. And you mentioned in your previous intervention that you only have 11 members. And then the question is, what is preventing you from growing? Or what do you think is the issue there about growth?
Internet providers are connected already. They have a problem for connecting providers from regions because they have to pay already for transit, but they are connected through other big providers, and they are using exchange of not only local, also CDN traffic. For example, in Gyumri, we have a provider who is using separate line to connect, but not every small provider is able to connect because it makes an additional expenses. But they are connected. IP numbers and IS numbers running in Armenia are connected. We have in our exchange, so it's no big difference. Are they connected directly or through the other providers? This is the answer.
Okay. Thank you, Albert. Did you want to add something else?
Yes, I would like to talk about the CDNs. I want to say that, as Vahan said, even small providers are able to set up some kind of CDNs like Facebook, Google, but we have only 2 running in ours, and most of our traffic is generated from this Akamai cluster. And also I want to say about the PCH cluster we have hosted in our Akamai. PCH is very important. It's not generating a huge traffic, but it's very important and very not visible, but doing a very good job in our ISP. PCH is providing a huge number of unicast DNS, top-level DNS servers, also several number of root servers. Our customers are using Quad 9 public DNS servers, so located in PCH cluster, and it's very important, and I will recommend if. Thank you.
Actually, Albert, you anticipated the discussion of the next. It's good. It's good. You gave me a way to transition to that part. So let me share my screen and
okay. Thank you.
And let's get back to that. And there are additional services to create additional value. This is the last part of the presentation. Some operators offer these services that are creating additional value. And as Albert mentioned, they add a lot of value in a silent way. There is K-root from RipenC. You can talk to Vahan if you're interested. There is F-root from ISC. There is PCH offering a large number of authoritative DNSs. But there's actually a lot more. You could provide NTP, and here maybe we can ask Luca about NTP at topics. I mentioned root DNS. There is an additional service you could set up yourself that's called AS112. This is an autonomous system number that's reserved for providing a specific service, reverse DNS queries for private IP addresses. Not a lot of traffic over this, but if you set it up, you'll help all the users of these ISPs to have lower latencies inside their network, because a lookup for a reverse DNS for a private IP address will just hit the local internet exchange, and the answer will come faster. And then authoritative DNS is for top-level domains. There is more, actually. There is a lot more. And here I plugged in ServiceDB, which is similar to what Luca already mentioned, a platform for IXP members to find and offer services based on the POPs or IXPs where they appear at. It's free for the members of federated IXPs. It was created by NaMex, but other exchange points can join for free. And this also helps creating more business and more community around the peering platform. If you give members a way to find or provide additional services and they can generate more revenue, then they're more interested in joining. You can find more at servicedb.net, but then we'll ask maybe not Flavio, but then maybe we can ask Maurizio or Luca if they want to also say a couple of things about ServiceDB. And then last but not least, Manners is a specific Manners program for IXPs. Manners is an initiative from the Internet Society, and there are specific actions in there about promoting Manners to the members and helping them in implementing Manners. As an IXP, when you implement Manners and when you become a member, you add value to your IXP, and you should also help your members in joining Manners. And this is a collaborative effort to bring more routing security to the whole country, because you can be a catalyzer for the whole routing security in the area, based on your presence, based on how you do filtering, based on how you teach your members on how to filter at the IXP. So this is a good selling point for Manners for IXPs. This was the last slide. And then maybe we can ask Maurizio to maybe say something about ServiceDB. Maurizio is the CEO, right, for NaMex.
Thank you very much, Max. You already have said everything. More or less, our first goal is to be useful for our members. This is one of the goals that we try to reach, also to populate the exchange point. Even in Albania, as already Flavio said, now trying to be useful means have the opportunity to the providers to reach a place where they can have a transit services that is cheaper than at their data center, because there are many that offer it or that can have, for example, this content providers available. But as you say, the exchange point is a natural market square, marketplace that is useful both for the local providers that look for services, and they have a sort of directory that gives you the useful information, who provided services, who is the right guys, because sometimes, even especially if you have to ask to a big company, you have to understand the right guy to ask. But it's also useful for the big international player, we think, because they are present in hundreds of exchange points and hundreds of countries. And to have services like this that allow them to understand who is in this exchange point, that can provide them the local services, because they look for local services. Or this, I think, is something useful. That's why we create ServiceDB.
So Maurizio, very quick question. We've already put you in contact with Ucha, but for example, if Albert would like NaMex to join that, is it possible?
Absolutely, yes. It's freely available. and we create a function that allow every internet exchange point to build their own space, and so they can manage their own internet service providers. This is also a way to give another rule to the exchange points. So to try to organize this sort of market. So the answer is yes, absolutely, and it's free to contact me. I can give him my contact, I think, and I am absolutely available.
Oh, thank you. We will discuss possibility, of course. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Going back to the services, thank you, Maurizio, by the way. Luca, what about NTP? Is that a service that you see is being requested by your members, or did you see, because I know it's a service being offered by Topics.
Yes, it is. It will be launched in July. You're Italian, you know that in August almost nothing is happening in Italy. But now we are refreshing the membership, our members. So basically NTP, I think most of the audience knows what it is normally accessible on the public internet, but it's also, it's often part of DDoS attacks. So what we are providing to the membership is an NTP services, because we have the master clocks directly connected to Topics to the membership on a private VLAN. So it's almost secure, because 100% of security is not possible, but more secure than the NTP that you can normally get on the internet. It's provided for free, of course, because it's an additional service for the membership. And I think I will be able to get you and the audience an update about the overall catch-up in the next months.
Okay, thank you, Luca. Thank you. Let me ask quickly, Albert, is Armix part of the Manners membership?
Not yet, but we are going. We are planned, our colleagues from ISOC Armenia, to start implementation of Manners in Armenia, yes.
That's good. That's good, because you have a very good ISOC chapter in Armenia.
Yes. Sorry, I want to say that we have in Armix NTP server, but NTP server is run by ISOC chapter, not by Armix. And of course, we have Anika AM domain located in Armix. In addition, I will say that it's very helpful to host RIPE Anchor in Armix, and we are collecting some measurements, some data analysis we are doing using these credits we have having from hosting Anchor in our ISP. Thank you.
Oh, right. Actually, I realize now when you said that, I forgot to put the Anchor as an additional service you can have at the IXP. If you want to know more about that, Vahan is your friend.
Yeah.
He also carries them in his luggage when he travels. Yes, one, he can bring you one.
Yes.
Maybe if Michalis or Angela, you have an idea of additional services we haven't talked about yet, or maybe also Flavio, is there anything you would add to the conversation here?
We just want to bring values to our customers, and we implemented 2 years ago the DE-CIX platform. This is for streaming, for channels to be easier for the operators to have access to the TV streams. This is an additional services. It's nothing commercial. It's for free. It's for everybody, and it's for free.
Yeah, I remember seeing a presentation. So you can check there's a presentation 5, I think.
Yes.
About it. So if you want to learn more, you can find it there. It's a nice platform they've built associated to the Internet Exchange. Yes. Michalis, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Basically, I think that you pretty much covered everything, Max. I just wanted to point out one more thing that has been mentioned earlier by many of you guys, and especially from Flavio, that in order to attract new members to join the exchange, you have to create some value on the exchange. And what biggest value besides providing a strong ecosystem, a strong community, in order to have new networks joining in? I'm 100% sure that especially the big Cdns, the big networks that are willing to join in a national exchange, let's say from abroad, are very interested in finding a healthy environment in terms of cooperation, in terms of local networks that are on the exchange, that are, let's say, managed compliant, that they have the ROA signed, that they have reachable NOC teams and stuff like that. I mean, that's the most critical part, in my opinion. And definitely the IXP operator, the organization that runs the exchange, should aim for that direction, in my opinion. Thank you, Max.
Oh, thank you, Michalis. Maybe Flavio, you want to add something to what Michalis has said?
Nothing to add. I think there are also, yes, some small tools that you can provide to, let me say, to enlarge the number of services you are providing to your community, such as, for instance, you can host some Atlas Anchor probes. You can also host BGP Alerter. It is a tool very useful for your community if you want to give them a service for understanding if they are doing or they are receiving an hijacking, or if they are doing everything correctly in terms of RPKI objects and this kind of stuff here. But I think I agree with Michalis, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Flavio. Thank you, Flavio. Thank you, Michalis. I think we've reached the end of the session. So I want to thank Albert. I want to thank Flavio. I want to thank Ucha, but also Luca, Maurizio, Michalis, Angela, everyone who participated. Well, Arnold, who left earlier. Thank you very much. And I hope this was an interesting session. It was for me, indeed. And then we see you in November, where we have the fourth meeting here in Vahan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Max. And we'll see you in November. I hope this next one will be dedicated to the regulation that is very important for Central Asia and Caucasus. In fact, for all these newly independent states, it's already for some 30 years already. But the regulation is still very important to have the IXPs, especially for Georgia, Kazakhstan, and other countries as well. Thanks all. Thanks much. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our organizers, to ISOC, DISCUSSANTS. Thanks to our team of organizers, mainly from ISOC, and thanks to our interpretation. I hope everybody that was on the channel have enjoyed it. And thanks, Ucha and Albert and Flavio. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And see you next time.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.